This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Oh my God!
Welcome, everybody, to the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. This is episode 57. Hopefully, I got that right. If I didn't, Doc's going to correct me here in a minute. On today's show, a whole bunch for you. We've got some updates on AJ Styles and contract negotiations. Jay Lethal maybe re-upping with a company. We're going to talk about that. James Ellsworth, he's a bonehead and found himself in all kinds of hot water, and he's still working his way through it. Of course, we're going to review Smackdown, Raw, and we've got to talk Survivor Series. And the guy who's going to do it with me, he's the one. He's the only. He sat down. He tuned in for every minute of Survivor Series. He was giving me updates because I watched parts of it. I wasn't really impressed. Just foreshadowing what we're going to talk about here. He's the one. He's the only. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz? Should I have said the phenomenal one as well?
I am the phenomenal one. But first, I can't believe that AJ Styles was not on TV at all this week.
I know.
Look, you got a contract situation. I understand it. I understand that this guy is demanding some things that maybe the company doesn't want to oblige to. But you got AJ Styles. When there's a Survivor Series, you got to have him present. You got to have him be an announcer. You got to have him, talk, do something, interfere. Not to have him in the building this week at all really did feel like a major absence this week. But in the end, I did watch Survivor Series. The way I want to put it is this. I loved the in-ring action. I just didn't like the storyline because, in essence, the way in which the year shook out, you could have did the exact same thing, but just had SmackDown win all the matches.
Right.
That would have been equally as shocking. That would have been par for the course. It would have made sense. But the way you look at it is, in terms of as the show progressed, the Survivor Series, it was like Raw 1. Okay, Raw 1. Okay, Raw 1. It took basically the intrigue out of the entire story that is the Survivor Series, which is a competition between Raw and SmackDown. And then you go, okay, afterwards, you have Shane McMahon tweeting out that there's going to be some major changes, and not really a whole heck of a lot happened on SmackDown to talk about that.
Right, then you come to SmackDown and nothing really happens. When I was watching it, I think it got to like 8:30, maybe 9 o'clock. And I was like, is Raw going to go on and win all of these? Like, this makes no sense to me. And I included and tagged a bunch of people, a bunch of our wrestling friends. I had Big Drew from Big Drew and Jim. I had you. I had Breaking Down the Ring podcast. I had Dennis Farrell. You guys should go check out their work. Also had Ben Raven, who works for M Live. He's a big wrestling fan. We're going to try to get him on the show here very shortly. So a whole bunch of people who are up on what's going on with wrestling, and everybody's like, there's no way Raw is going to win all of these. There's no way. Dennis was like, I think it makes sense, and I get it for the overall storyline of what's going on with both Raw and SmackDown. But at the same point, I don't think any of us really enjoyed it. I thought it was really stupid. And to totally gloss over the fact that in your pre-show, the Usos helped Team SmackDown defeat Team Raw in the tag match, you just don't ever reference it ever again. It's like it didn't happen. It happened in a different timeline.
Right.
It's so stupid. And that right there was a total botch. Raw was supposed to win that, but the people who were setting it up and the bookers totally screwed it up. Totally screwed it up. Never let the talent know. Talent thought the Usos and SmackDown were going to go over and win that, and they ended up doing that. But to never reference it, to never come back to it, is just ignorant. You're basically telling your fan base, this didn't happen. What you just seen did not happen. Like, bro, I'm tuning in for a 4-hour extravaganza of some crappy wrestling that you're going to provide me, and how are you going to tell me what I just witnessed didn't happen?
Exactly.
It's so frustrating.
But
absolutely so frustrating.
Bonus was the pay-per-view started at 7, ended at 10:35. So I like that.
So you got out early.
Exactly. And if you did miss it, the 365-day special for AJ Styles was by and large way better than the entire Survivor Series pay-per-view. So it made it worthwhile to sit and watch that because it recapped one of the great years in the history of professional wrestling, and it just brought back all the great memories and the hard work that dude at 41, 42 years old has got to do to get himself in shape to work that kind of schedule. So I can see why he wants to demand a lesser schedule because dude was all over in 2018. Holy cow.
All right, let's jump into the review here. So, mentioned before, the Usos helped Team SmackDown win by defeating Team Raw in the tag team match. This was part of the pre-show. Apparently, the pre-show doesn't count for jack squat, so it's 0-0 going into the very first match, which is the women's elimination match. Now, in this match, Team Raw defeats Team SmackDown as Nia Jax is the last woman standing. So, WWE has totally bought in on Nia Jax being the so-called face breaker, and they're buying the heat, and they're cramming it down your throat right now. The heat that she has from popping Becky Lynch in the face and essentially ruining one of the best matches for Survivor Series.
I think it's the best way to handle it. I mean, you did disappoint a lot of people who wanted to see that match, but now you have to kind of also pump her up a little bit because...
But you reward a botch, and you reward bad behavior. And that's the worst thing. She's a dangerous person in the ring. This isn't the first person she's hurt, and this isn't the first person she has sidelined. She is dangerous in the ring.
At the same time, too, while I know that safety is super important, I think they also rank the type of injury, too, whereas you go, okay, Nia Jax destroyed Becky Lynch's face, but it also kind of adds credibility to the fact that wrestling is not just, powder puff entertainment. So it's kind of like that duality where you kind of also get respect for kind of roughing up somebody a little bit because, some of the old-time wrestlers, what they used to talk about? They used to talk about that, hey, if a guy was kind of acting a little bit, crazy behind the scenes, they'd come in and kind of work them real stiff.
Yeah.
And they'd get, like, respect for basically, taking a young cat and basically working them. I mean, Hulk Hogan famously...
for sure.
Hulk Hogan famously broke someone's leg, or someone famously broke his leg, I think, in Japan because he was being an ass. And
yes.
they said, okay, I think a famous Japanese wrestler did something and boom, broke his leg.
And you're absolutely right. I think the thing that saves Nia Jax is the fact that Becky Lynch thrived in the moment.
Yes.
The fact that Becky was able
made
to...
her more
popular. She was able to stand up, shake off the cobwebs and the concussion as much as she could. She took the blood that was gushing out of her face and smeared it all over her body, and she owned it, and she made it part of her character. It was one of the best ad-libs you've ever seen, and she thrived in it, and it made her more realistic. On top of that, if you haven't checked out Becky Lynch's Twitter, I'm telling you right now,
it's on fire
do
lately,
yourself a freaking favor and go check out the man on Twitter because she is filleting people. She came out and she cut up Nia. She cut up Ronda Rousey. She is going ham on she cut up Chris Jericho. It's amazing what she's doing right now. She is staying in character on her Twitter, and it's awesome.
An underlying theme, too, throughout Survivor Series was who was eliminated in these matchups because it kind of speaks to where maybe the company views them. Naomi being eliminated so early was kind of surprising. I thought she could add something to that match. But in the end, Nia Jax is the last woman standing, and she wins it.
Yes. Moving on to Seth Rollins, Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, Rollins defeated Nakamura by pinfall. This was a match that I think all of us were hyped to see. It just really never felt like it got going. Like it never picked up. It seemed like it got stuck in second gear. It was never able to ratchet it up to third or fourth gear.
Until the very end. That's the problem with this kind of match is that Nakamura and Rollins should have put forth a very energetic match throughout, but it was kind of very slow to get started. But that ending sequence was really good in terms of the way it interacted with the crowd, and some of the movesets that Seth Rollins performed really got people over, and to have Seth Rollins win, it was a good match. But like I said, it didn't live up to what it could have been because of expectations. This match happens 5 years ago. Probably could be match of the year candidate, but it was a good match. It was good to see Seth Rollins defeat Nakamura clean, and you keep it moving.
Now, you were somebody who was really critical of Nakamura during this match. You just said it seems like he's lost, like the company has zero faith in him, and he's just there. Like he's not as good of a worker as he was advertised to be, as he was promised to be. What you got in New Japan, he's a shadow of what that was. Do you still feel that way? Is that kind of where you're at with it, and why?
And here's another thing, too. If you just start looking at the history of WWE, those that are not homegrown talent just don't seem, outside of the transcendent superstar like a Chris Jericho, like an AJ Styles, but few and far between, those that kind of come in from the outside always seem to kind of take a backseat in major matches to those that are homegrown guys. I think it would have been beneficial. It wouldn't have hurt to have Shinsuke win. But when you have the theme and the narrative of the night that Raw is going to destroy everybody, it's fine. It's just, I think a guy like Shinsuke Nakamura deserves to maybe now move up in terms of what people think of him, but he doesn't have good enough matches. I mean, he can have a good 5 minutes, but he can't carry 20 minutes of exciting action to have people cheer. It's just, you're not getting the same Nakamura that people saw when you look at the YouTube videos. They were classic matches, a little bit more smooth, a little bit more storytelling, a lot more engagement with the fans. This Nakamura is the WWE version. It's just not that good.
Right. I agree with you 110%. Next match was AOP. They defeated the Bar by pinfall. In this match, Drake Maverick pisses himself. This was really questionable storytelling. It didn't make a lot of sense. It didn't really add anything to the match. It made for a small comic bit that I don't think was really all that funny.
Wasn't that funny? And here's the thing. I passively watched it, and it kind of speaks to where the tag teams are at in terms of storytelling. And how bad is it that you have the Bar, one of the elite tag teams that is featured, that was elevated, you have them lose, and it's kind of an afterthought. I kind of just didn't care. Like, I saw it, I'm like, what are they doing? And then they zoomed in on it, and I'm like, oh, it just didn't move the needle at all. It was the worst match of the card. Yeah. You can just fast forward through it if you're pressed for time. It was terrible.
And then you have Buddy Murphy defeat Mustafa Ali by pinfall. Now, this was a very good match.
Solid, entertaining.
For the Cruiserweight Championship. This was awesome. This was a great match. Highly recommend you go check this out.
A lot of people were like, look, great. The 205 belt, the Cruiserweight belt, is actually being defended on a pay-per-view, not in the pre-show. They both did a great job. Buddy Murphy, great spots, and it was a great match. Very exciting, and I was glad it was put at that spot in the card. Good job for both men.
The one thing is, Raw did not sweep 205 Live. Just putting that out there. The men's elimination match. Team Raw ends up defeating Team SmackDown as Braun had to fight off not just the SmackDown competitors, he also had to fight off some of the Raw competitors at certain points. So Braun ends up standing tall when everything is said and done. Raw wins another match here. This was decent. I felt like it could have been done better. It just seemed a little bit flat. In the way we were tracking at this point, Raw had won everything. You're just like, all right, cool. Raw's going to win this too. There's no surprise. And Samoa Joe getting put out immediately.
Shocking.
What was
pointless, really.
Yeah, like what the hell are we doing? Like Samoa Joe is one of the baddest men on the planet, and you're going to put him out first?
Well, he did have a run at the top of SmackDown, feuding with AJ Styles. See, I think that's the thing that we've talked about in previous podcasts, is it kind of seems like you're at the top of the game, and then all of a sudden you're like put way back in the shuffle where you're losing matches and then getting eliminated first. And then when you look at the other side, look at who remained and who was eliminated. Finn Balor and Dolph Ziggler not there to celebrate a victory. It would have been nice to have them there in terms of celebrating and just maybe not have that many eliminations.
That's another guy who was falling down the card.
Dolph Ziggler and Finn Balor, exactly. When you look at, when I first started that match, I said, wow, these are 10 guys that each of them, if you shine the light on them, could be amazing talents. And it's just like, it felt like, in the end, it felt like the mid-card special. It was like, wow. And that was kind of the theme was, early on, it just kind of felt like Survivor Series was just like a really elevated house show. It didn't have the special feel of a pay-per-view until we got to the final two matches where you go, wow, okay. It picked up and it made the card because you saw the final two matches and you said, okay, you have some memories, you have some things to talk about. But up until that point, you just had a bunch of talent that was just there to do a job, and it wasn't really meaningful in any way until now you get to the semi-main event and the main event.
Yeah, the semi-main event was Ronda Rousey. She ended up defeating Charlotte Flair, but it was by disqualification. Now, this was probably the best match on the entire card, and just based solely on storytelling and what it means. On top of that, the crowd reaction was incredible. Charlotte ends up going crazy. She just snapped. She absolutely lost it, goes deranged, and becomes a full-blown heel. It's like AIDS in the 80s. It's full-blown, and it's infecting everything right now. Charlotte loses it, breaks out a kendo stick, and starts whipping the hell out of Ronda Rousey with it. In the end, she takes a chair, wraps it around her neck, gets ready to do some incredible damage to her. She's beating up referees. This was absolutely insane at the very, very end, and the crowd loved it. The crowd was cheering for Charlotte, and they were saying, thank you, Charlotte, which to me was a little bit confusing because Ronda Rousey...
I can tell you why.
Is it because Ronda's getting pushed?
Yes.
It's the push. She hasn't had to earn anything.
And the fact of the matter is when you watch the match...
WWE fans are so fickle.
No, I think they're traditional, and they don't like people that are given these top spots that can't wrestle.
But no,
Ronda
you can't say that. Because Ronda has come a long way in a very short period of time, and she puts on decent matches. She puts on better matches than some of the other broads who come up from NXT.
Now, here's the thing. When you look at the smoothness of the move sets and things like that, it's sloppy. Like when her legs go over her head, when she sells, she's selling good, but she's way overselling. It kind of would appear like it would look like if you and I got in the ring and started for the first time. You can do move sets, but you got Charlotte and you got Ronda Rousey. There's a clear difference.
Look, I don't know if you know this. My move sets consists of suplex, elbow drop. That's all I got.
But Ronda, just go rewatch that match and just kind of look at the way in which she looks. It's not exactly smooth. She can put together a match. She can take a beating. She can sell. But look, let me ask you this. When Charlotte threw Ronda into the turnbuckle, it just didn't seem right.
Okay, the Iconics or Ronda Rousey, who puts together better matches?
I don't even watch the Iconics.
Okay, exactly.
I don't watch
My
them.
point, all right? Ronda Rousey or Mandy Rose. I watched a match the other night with Mandy Rose on SmackDown where Mandy Rose jumped well before the kick ever came. And I was like, what the hell? My stepdad was watching it with me, and he was like, the hell is this shit?
Yeah.
He's like, how do you watch this? This is horrible. And I was
Yeah.
like, she's just she's not good. Okay, she just isn't good.
She's a pretty face.
I don't know what to tell you. She's just not good. And he was like, it's all make-believe, dude. And I'm
Okay.
like, I know, but...
Okay, now, you want to compare Ronda Rousey to the Iconics, but just compare Ronda Rousey to Natalya, Charlotte, Carmella, Naomi, those women that are at the top of the card, Sasha Banks. It just isn't a spot where I think the fans yet are ready to give her the proper due. Now, she can do moves. She can pick up people. She can slam them. But I'm saying the way in which it just looks a little bit sloppy in terms of the finer points. Like, look, you can put a guy in a headlock and do a move, but if it's not smooth, it's not natural, it comes across as herky-jerky. And I think that's why people respect Charlotte Flair more, because she's gone through the battles, she's gone through the wars, and they gave her the props.
Charlotte also grew up in it. In her
exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Her dad's what, like
Ronda Rousey,
actually like a 26-time champion.
Ronda Rousey's a true outsider, and she's got to continue to evolve. She'll get there.
And I get it, but like at the same time, you got to give her credit for where she's come.
Of course,
you know what I mean, she came from she came from legitimately punching broads in the face and breaking them in half to now I've got to pull a punch, which this is what CM Punk has struggled with at the next level in MMA. CM Punk has forever pulled punches, never followed through because he was a wrestler.
Yeah,
it's you have to protect your other combatant. Now he's in MMA and he struggles with pulling that punch. You can't pull the punch now. You've got to knock the guy out. So it's totally different. She's come from a world where she is used to crushing people physically, like legitimately hurting them, to now I've got to protect you and I've got to help you out. I think she's done an admirable job. For the fans to turn on her the way they did really kind of just struck me as odd, and I was just kind of like, oh, that's different. That's weird. I get it that she didn't have to struggle for it. She was basically thrust into the spotlight. They gave her the belt. It not like Becky. That's why everybody's behind Becky, because Becky had to struggle for almost a year and a half, had to climb and fight and scratch her way up to the top, and finally she's got the belt, and she's doing miraculous things with it, even when she's not in the ring. So I get it, but at the same time, give this woman some credit for what she's doing.
All right, now we go to the main event, which kind of was controversial in that a lot of people did review it very well. For me personally, I thought it was great to see Brock Lesnar sell, and he does it for the big timers like AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan, for the guys, the underdogs.
When Brock wants to put on a match, when Brock wants to be engaged in a match, he is good.
But now the problem I had was just the way in which the story was told, which is Brock goes over for the first 10 minutes, just destroys Daniel Bryan, then Daniel gets in his movesets, and then the match ends and Brock Lesnar wins, which made me go, why not have this level of match where it goes 15 minutes, but back and forth? That's all you had to do to make it an elite match, was let Daniel Bryan get some offense in early. Let there be belief that, hey, wait a minute, maybe Daniel Bryan can actually win the match. The first 10 minutes of the match, you're like, oh, God, here we go. It's just a destruction. Then Daniel Bryan gets in a couple moves, and then you go, oh, maybe there is a chance. But the way they did it was traditional. It was like Brock Lesnar, then Daniel Bryan, then boom, F5, match over. So I thought it was really simplistic, but a lot of people messaged and said, well, a lot of Brock Lesnar matches are simplistic, but in this one
they
was
are
different
very simple.
In that he sold and that he did the job and kind of helped elevate Daniel Bryan. And that's fine. I
On
can
top
see
of it,
why.
this match was longer than his normal 2 or 3 minute matches.
And he's done that for
it's
AJ
good.
Styles, Daniel Bryan. It's just weird that he doesn't do it for Braun Strowman or Samoa Joe and things like that. So I just think he should do it for everybody, really, in the end, because he's that big of a marquee name.
Dude, he makes so much money. He should be doing it for whoever wants
Did the
it.
right guy go over? Should it have been Brock Lesnar going forward?
I mean, I guess. Look, who's more believable going over in a fight?
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar or Daniel Bryan?
Exactly.
Brock Lesnar. So, yeah. In calling the card, this is where each of us get a point if we can best the other. We each got 6 out of 8 matches correct. You missed the Nakamura versus Rollins match and the women's 5-on-5 match, while I missed the Buddy Murphy versus Mustafa Ali match and the women's 5-on-5 match. So we both struck out on the women's 5-on-5, and then we had other matches on the card. So we each get a half a point. At this point, my lead stays the same, 7.5 now to 6. So I still have I'm still up on you by 1.5. All right, let's transition to Raw. So I was really interested with Raw.
You shouldn't have been.
I know. But I was like, okay, cool. How do we build off a SummerSlam? How do we build off a Survivor Series? What's the next step here? How does what just took place on Sunday night play into what's going to take place on Monday night? And it really and truly, it felt like it was flat. It didn't feel like it really transitioned or we moved any storylines along. It was just there.
And now we're starting to see a trend where when the schedule gets tight, when there's a massive pay-per-view that goes long, then the next show, they start doing like gauntlet matches that are an hour. You start having segments that are going on for an hour. And I think that's the wrong strategy. I think what you need to do is then elevate and what I think you need to do is elevate other guys that don't get the time on TV and give them longer matches. No, how do you open? A long-ass promo with Stephanie and Baron, followed by a long-ass match, a 6-man tag, which in the end, you could have tuned out. You didn't miss nothing.
Yeah, I don't think you missed a whole lot there. The one thing is, the way it ended, I think, was important. And this is probably the most important piece of WWE, WWE footage that you must see for this week, because in the end, it turns out that there's a beatdown with a chair by McIntyre, and then the beatdown continues with a Claymore kick from McIntyre. Braun gets thrown into the ringside steps. His elbow and his arm are placed on the ring stairs. Next thing you know, Corbin's tossing another set of stairs on it, and it ends up ripping his arm open. And this was all done to write Braun off of TV for an elbow surgery. So it was a bloody mess, and he screamed like he was in legit pain. Like, I think everybody who was watching legitimately thought, holy shit, he's really hurt. This was a bad move by Corbin. And he may have actually been hurt, but he's about to undergo surgery. This was pre-planned. He was written off TV for a reason. So he's going to go get his elbow fixed, probably just scoped. I'm not sure what the extent of the injury is. After that, we have a Seth Rollins promo. He comes out and cuts one on Dean Ambrose, where he says he's feeling highly aggressive tonight. He challenges Dean Ambrose to come to the ring. Ambrose appeared on the Titantron, where he's playing the aloof heel like he has been. It was good, but I don't feel like it necessarily moved the storyline along. It just kind of like, okay, cool. What are we doing here? There's a lot of that on Monday Night Raw this week. Like, what are we doing here? Ronda ends up beating up Mickie James in a solid match. I think in this match, the thing that I can take out of it is Rousey showed the ability to take the crowd's jeers from the night before and rebound the next day. Like, she didn't let it affect her mentally, and she didn't let it affect her in-ring performance. I thought it was great development on her part, just as an in-ring performer and as a superstar. I thought that was probably the highlight of this match.
And I think it was highlighted on the Survivor Series where they say that, she's going down in training, she's watching all of her matches, she's getting talked to a lot, she's a woman that people are investing in. So I think in terms of that, as long as the crowd is not dead silent or absolutely shitting on a match where they're just singing along to totally something different, I don't even think the superstars care if they're cheered or booed. As long as there's noise in the building.
This has to be a reaction.
They're okay with it. And I think that probably in that situation, beatdowns, I think reasonably speaking, can be expected that Charlotte could have been cheered for that, because the fans like that. They like the Stone Cold version of a heel character, and even if a person is, quote unquote, a heel like Charlotte, they have no problem cheering her.
Right.
People like it, so I don't think they were even probably surprised by it. But Ronda's going to rebound, and the part that sucked was she walks up the ramp, and who's there? Nia Jax, and you're like, oh boy, Nia Jax versus Ronda Rousey. It's not going to do much for me.
Yeah,
because Ronda's going to go over. It's easy.
I'm not interested in this match at all.
Exactly.
In the what the F category, Bobby Roode and Chad Gable get a roll-up win over AOP. This is no way to show your creme de la creme tag team in your tag team division. This is no way to present them. Absolutely not. It's bad enough that you had their manager piss himself on television the night before, but you have them come out and lose to a guy like Bobby Roode and Chad Gable, a tag team that's been in the works now for a couple months maybe, while AOP's been doing it for years. On top of it, AOP looks like a dominant force. Just physically, they're imposing. This is absolutely stupid booking. Just dumb. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Monday Night Raw ends up finishing up with Ambrose and Rollins getting physical in the ring. Ambrose ends up standing tall after all was said and done. He hit 2 dirty deeds, leaving Rollins laid out, and that was kind of the end of Raw. This was a Raw where if you missed it, good
No problems.
for you.
Yeah, no
good
problems.
for you. I mean, hopefully you're watching that Monday Night Football game because it was awesome.
Yes.
Monday Night Raw was absolute. It was a flaming bag of dog shit. It was not good.
Do you think, I know they don't put on shows to compete with the NFL, but do you think they said, okay, you know what, we're not probably going to get a massive boost in attendance, we're not going to get a massive boost in ratings, let's just put on a decent show, but we're going to have minor storyline adjustments because of the NFL.
I think that was part of it, especially because they were in LA.
Yeah.
Where was that football game played?
In LA. One of the great football games of all time.
Exactly. One of the best.
Because you texted me, you said, is Raw worth watching? And I was at the gym. I was like, you know what? This first hour is boring. I was excited.
You said, screw it.
I said, screw it.
Yeah.
I busted out and worked out a little bit, and I watched some of it later, and I was just like, this is terrible, especially when I saw the Bobby Roode match with Gable. It's like, you know what? You guys have crapped all over the tag team division when you actually could make it something important. So, yeah, it just wasn't a good Raw for me at all. Thumbs down.
Absolutely frustrating. Now, on SmackDown I think was a little bit better. Still didn't hit the highs, but the lows were nowhere near as low.
Exactly.
Charlotte comes out, cuts a promo, and explains herself on why she snapped, why she lost it. She's interrupted by Paige, who then finds her, what was it? It was $100,000.
$100,000, what?
The Iconics come out. In the end, Charlotte ends up going berserk again. This is going to be her new thing. She's going to have a switch that she can flip, and she just goes crazy. She goes berserk, and she crushes the Iconics.
Over 35 minutes dedicated to this storyline. I was like, commercial. I like flipped around and watched some other stuff, and then all of a sudden, bam, the match was still going on. I'm like, holy cow. I watched some of the USA-Italy soccer match, the friendly.
Which is awesome.
It was a great match, and then you come back, and it's like, damn, they're still going out with this? I'm like, okay, this is Survivor Series post-pay-per-view nonsense, and of course...
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Next, we have Miz hosting a Miz TV segment where he has Shane McMahon on, and he basically asks him to tag with him. So what you're going to see here, just going to foreshadow what's going to happen going forward. The Miz is going to end up turning face. Shane's going to end up turning heel. So this right here is the build for it. This is the foundation. So didn't expect a whole lot out of this, and I didn't really get a whole lot out of it. Miz ends up inviting down 2 local competitors, and the match starts. In the end, the Miz gets rolled up on by
the
local
Jobbers
competitor
win.
number 1.
The Bryans. That was cool. That was really fun. I thought the segment was fine, and like I said, knowing what's going to happen, it just kind of, it was interesting to see, Shane McMahon saying, why do you keep talking about we? And you had, the Miz kind of hyping up the
he's
the relationship.
He's 2/3 of the what is it, the best in the world?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was great to see. It was fun. It was a fun segment. I enjoyed it.
Next, we have a Thanksgiving tag match between
Thumbs
the New Day
down,
and the Bar and the Big Show. And I hate these matches. I hate when they do it for Halloween. I hate when they do it for Thanksgiving. I hate when they do it for Christmas. I hate when they do it for Easter. These matches make no sense to me. When you have food involved in a wrestling match, I don't understand it. I don't like it. In the end, the Bar, the Big Show end up going through tables, and they're just covered in food. New Day ends up winning. I don't understand it. I didn't get it. This is going to build towards probably tables, ladders, and chairs. I just don't.
Comedic relief. It just wasn't needed this week.
No, it really wasn't. Asuka and Naomi end up beating Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville in a match. Best way I could describe it is this is supposed to help continue on the chasm between Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville.
Fast forward special.
Exactly.
Just get through it.
Go pee. You have to go pee, take a shit, go do that. We get a weird Daniel Bryan promo where he proclaims that the Yes Movement is dead. And I say it's weird because at times it just felt like he just rambled. Just went on and on and on. This was like a 15-minute promo of him just talking to the crowd. And honestly, I didn't get it. I didn't understand what it was supposed to convey, what it's supposed to set up. I just was left scratching my head. I'm like, all right, cool, the Yes Movement's dead. Well, you're a heel now, so duh.
It's kind of like a segment where 2 producers are writing it and they're trying to get their shit in, and it's like, oh, this guy put it this way and that guy put it that way, and it's like, dude, just let him go out there and tell his piece and what's next, what do you want to do, and keep it short. 5 minutes. This is what I did. The Yes Movement's dead. Stop with the bullshit. I'm ready to handle my business. Come at me, and who's next? That's all you got to do, and be intense about it. Yeah, exactly. He was rambling and kind of felt like it was overproduced.
Yeah, exactly. In the end, for our main event, we have a match between Randy Orton and Rey Mysterio. And this was just a match. It was just a match. There was nothing special about it. It was just a match.
But the ending had some newsworthy moments. It was cool.
The ending was cool. The ending ended up, that's where you get your heat, is in the ending. When Randy Orton uses a chair around Rey's neck and hits him into the ring post, Rey falls down. When he falls down, his mask falls off. And the taking the mask off was part of the match. It was a small part of the match. It wasn't very big, and it wasn't big until the very, very end. When the mask did fall off, Randy Orton picked it up and held it up to the crowd.
I like the guy that was like, "Give him back the mask, Randy." It was cool.
I think overall, I think SmackDown was
way better.
Yes, it was way better. It was decent. I don't think it was a very good show, but compared to the hot pile of garbage that you got on Raw, it has to go to SmackDown this week.
Real quick, if you were to make some changes to SmackDown, wouldn't you maybe move AJ Styles to Raw, bring over another competitor from Raw to SmackDown that could maybe compete with Daniel Bryan? What would be maybe a shakeup that you would do? Because I feel like, okay, you announce a shakeup, you probably should have did a superstar shakeup and just have, outside of the wrestling, just having people show up saying, "Here I am. It's time for a new change. I want a new direction." Would have been great for both shows. That's all you got to do is just shake things up. You don't got to do it every 6 months. You just got to do it when the roster's a little tired. You have them show up, cut some promos, and keep it moving. But no surprises after pay-per-view was kind of dull.
I don't think I'd move AJ because he is the face of SmackDown right now. He is the big guy. So unless you're going to move a guy like maybe a Brock Lesnar who never shows up, or you're going to move another big name, somebody who... You're not going to put Drew McIntyre on SmackDown right now, are you?
No.
He's got a storyline going. So
Bobby Lashley could come over there, kind of get I think Bobby
Lashley could use the move to SmackDown. That's a great call.
Yeah,
great call.
He should have showed up there and handled his business or do something different. I just think that they should have did it right away. What's the delay?
Yeah, it's the way they do it, man. They have to cram it down your throat for 3 weeks, and then you have to have a whole massive event. So we're going to give the point to SmackDown, agreed?
Agreed.
All right, SmackDown takes the lead 34.5 to 26.5. The one thing we didn't touch on, Enzo Amore showed up at Survivor Series.
That was interesting.
And he went in incognito, and during one of the matches rips off his costume, and he's standing on a chair.
His stick.
Yes, and he ends up getting tossed out. This is the same guy who earlier last week got kicked off a plane for vaping, and then shows up in LA because I guess he had a rap show on Monday night, and shows up at Survivor Series and goes into his realest guy in the room bit. Next thing you know, security is tossing his ass, and he's not allowed ever back into Staples Center. Now, my original thought was, oh, this is a work. This is a work. He's coming back to WWE because by all accounts, by his accounts, Vince McMahon really liked him. Triple H did not like him, but Vince was really high on him. And they had some plans for him, and then everything happened with the rape allegations, and then they had to kind of cut ties with him. I thought it was a work. At this point, I don't think it's a work.
No,
he's just
bad
an
way
idiot.
to do it, but he got attention, and that's what you're trying to do. If you know you're not going to ever come
Very
back,
disrespectful to your competitors, though,
Yes,
or
yes.
your former coworkers, I should say.
So if you only got 10 minutes, you had a long week, you didn't have a chance to watch a lot of wrestling this week, what's the match of the week in your eyes?
I think you need to watch that opening segment of Raw. Don't watch the promo part, but watch the 6-man tag. It's just what happens at the end with Braun Strowman, just because it's part of the storytelling. Because now you're scratching your head and you're scratching your ass, and you're like, is he going to be back for TLC? Is he? Nobody's really sure. And it's part of the build towards the way they wrote him off. It's part of the build for what's going to come next between him and Baron Corbin. Otherwise, everything else was just kind of nothing.
Hit me with this week's news and notes.
All right, so a condensed version of news and notes this week. AJ Styles is negotiating a new contract with WWE. Now, they're a little bit apart. AJ wants 3 years, and he wants limited dates. He wants to spend more time at home with his family and his kids, while WWE is offering a 5-year full-time deal. His contract expires in December. So he's got roughly 3 weeks to kind of get this worked out and get this nailed down, and they are 2 years and a whole bunch of shows apart. Now, it's reported that Jay Lethal has re-upped with ROH. Terms are not known at this moment, but that's awesome for ROH, and that's great for Jay Lethal. He is one of the best things ROH has going for it. James Ellsworth. Apparently, he sent some nudes to a 16-year-old girl. Bad look, bro. Bad look. He knew how old she was.
Snapchat, too.
Yes, he knew how old she was, and ended up sending her shots of himself in a mirror with no pants on. Dude, uncalled for. Apparently, he is a creep at the wrestling shows.
Yeah, this is the part that's so weird, is like, okay, when something like this happens, you probably assume it's not the first time he's dropping his pants and sending weird shit to people. And obviously, he's been in and out of WWE. He's had relationships with people, and now he's gone across the country in the indie scene. If this kind of stuff is happening, why are you keeping it secret? Just out him. I mean, it's great. It's like when something major happens, like, oh, this guy was a creep. I'm like, I never heard anything that he was a creep anywhere. So in the age of social media, if someone like that in a professional nature is acting like a creep, you got to kind of say something, especially if you're looking at a budding predator. You could have prevented this from happening. At the same time, the weird part of that story was the girl that he sent it to was like, if you don't believe me, I'll send it to you, which is like kind of like, if you sent it to someone else, that's also a violation of some rules too. So it's kind of weird all in all the way the story played out, but you got to be smarter if you're a guy with a family acting like this,
well,
man.
Dude, and the thing you have to realize is this is a guy who grinded on the indie scene.
Yeah, you made it.
Forever.
You made it.
You ended up getting gifted an opportunity in WWE. You took advantage of it and you made the most out of it. They still bring him back. He was at SmackDown 1000. They didn't have enough time to get to him. That's how much Vince McMahon liked his character. That's how much Vince valued him. Was he would pay him just to show up. Not even go on. Just show up and I'm going to pay you.
And here's the thing now, too, is that the part that I don't like in people's behavior is, let's say you are somebody that is in a prominent role. Other people took chances on you. Dennis Farrell did a podcast with you and you blew up. You were in a major podcast scene. You were talking wrestling. You were supplementing your income. You do this now. Dennis got heat. He had to lose a bunch of followers and he had to answer questions like, dude, and he had to come out with statements saying that, look, we have to delete all the shows and take them off the thing. Your behavior has consequences and it affects other people. So to do this is really disgusting on a lot of levels, and we felt bad for Dennis. I reached out to him and said, hey, man, sorry, you had to go through this tough shit.
Yeah, it's
tough.
It's stupid. It really is. It's dumb because you have the world by the ass. You're a guy who grinded forever, and let's be honest, James Ellsworth does not have the best body, does not have the best look. He cuts an okay promo, but he's no master on the mic, right? He's not Shawn Michaels in his heyday. Dude, you had everything gifted to you. You just had to not screw it up,
and you
screwed it up.
That's
like you're done with WWE. WWE won't touch you now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you're hot fire. They're not touching you.
Exactly.
You're done. On top of that, you've been pulled from all your other indie promotions.
Done.
Indie wrestlers don't want to touch you. Indie promotions don't want to touch you.
That's bad.
You're done, dude.
Done.
Stupid.
I want to thank our show supporters, the Breaking Down the Ring podcast. Follow them on Twitter at BDRcast and all areas of social media. They're at BDRcast. They air every single Wednesday live, 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time, live via the Podcast Detroit platform. And definitely go and check out our friend Dennis Farrell at the WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com, doing great work with Petey Williams. Shout out to Petey Williams. He got his footage shown on the AJ Styles special, so Dennis definitely showed him there, and that's really good. Shout out to Petey and Dennis. They do great work, a lot of great insights, a lot of great interviews. WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com. I like being part of the wrestling community, and we definitely support those who support us. Shout out to Dennis. Shout out to Mikey and the crew at the Breaking Down the Ring podcast. All right, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Thanks to our rep, Adam Salgett, for the preview video. That was cool.
Oh, that was awesome.
That
dude.
was great.
That was so great. I'm glad you brought that up because I totally forgot. I showed my mom. I was like, Mom, check this out.
Some guy did it.
I was like, right,
a supporter.
I was like, this is awesome. Like when people like what you do and they like your work enough to spend time to create other things off of what you've done, Adam, it was great. I totally appreciate it. I thought it was amazing, dude. Thank you so much. That was like the coolest thing ever. You open up your Twitter and you have something like that. It was absolutely amazeballs. Thank you.
That was awesome. Thanks, Adam, for listening, and thank you for the videos. If anything we've said at all, definitely respond to us via Twitter at Detroit Podcast. You can leave us a voicemail, 248-579-8686. You can follow Adam at Adam R. STROZ. See everybody next week. Can't wait.